Hello YouTube, my name is Patrick God, yes it really is, and welcome to, well, the third episode in essence, a third video regarding authentication with .NET 6 and a web API. Actually, I was really thinking that we were done with the second video, check out the info card please, but you've been totally right, of course. I totally forgot to tell you how you can read the claims within your web API, within your application. Maybe you want to check manually if the user is in the admin role. Maybe you want to read the name or the user ID. This is something you, well, do quite often, I guess. And now in this episode, I will show you how to do that. There are two options to do this. You can use the controller and you can also use a service. Maybe this is a better practice. Well, it definitely is a better practice. Fat controllers is not really a good practice, but anyways, you will see both ways here in this video, and in essence I don't have to tell you more. We can actually start already, but first, as always, please consider at least clicking the like button. Maybe, thank you very much, but maybe you even want to subscribe to my channel. This really does make a difference. Thank you so much, and don't forget to hit the bell icon to get a notification when new videos are uploaded. Additionally, maybe you want to subscribe to my newsletter. With that you get early access and maybe also free access to upcoming online courses. Also soon ebooks. I really want to try ebooks. Do you want to see an ebook? Maybe if you have an idea, please tell me that in the comments. Thank you. And last but not least, thank you so much everyone who bought me a coffee or a Ko-fi for all your donations. Thank you so much. I will love you forever, guys. Maybe you wanna donate as well. I really need coffee. I forgot my coffee here now, as I can see. But with a little boy, you do not get lots of sleep, and with coffee, you can fix that a little. Okay, long story short, now let's start with the tutorial. All right, here's the project. So first, a quick recap again, really quick. We've got a users object. We will not store this in a database. This is only here in our web API. This thing is stateless. This means when we restart the application, the user we register is gone. And with register, I already told you what we did here. So first we've got a user object with a password hash and a password salt. This is important because the user DTO has the username and the password in plain text. But with that, this is a DTO, meaning a data transfer object. So we send the username and the password to the web API, and then we create this user object here. And well, store this in memory only, because here we've got our auth controller and we've got the register method that takes a user DTO as a request, a login, also the user DTO, and so on. We check if everything is correct. If so, we create a token, and this is important here. We will use this in this episode as well. So we write the username in the token, and then with the second video in this, well, now it's a series. So in the second video, we also added the role here as a claim, which is admin now. Of course, you can change this. It's totally up to you. And usually you would also add a name identifier claim. So something like that maybe. Yeah, and this would be usually the ID of the user when you use a database. But this just as a side note. Okay, so we create the token, we create password hash, and so on. Please have a look at the videos and the GitHub repository, and that's pretty much it. So we register users, we log them in, we create a JSON web token with this method here. Again, this is important. And in the last video, so in the second one, we also did one more thing here, the weather forecast controller. We use this example controller because when you create a web API project, then you will get this weather forecast controller out of the box. And here we added the authorize attribute with the role admin. So not only authenticated users, but also authorized users, meaning users who got the admin role could access this method here. And then last thing for this recap, what we did is we added, for authentication purposes, we added this big thing here. This is necessary to read the JSON web token, and for that you also need one key, and this key is set in the app settings JSON. Again, if this is too fast, this is the word I was looking for. If this is too fast, slow down playback, or please have a look at the other two videos. And then also here the middleware app use authentication. This was important. And now to test everything, we used Swagger, and to make the authentication work, or to be able to send a bearer token to the with the authorization header, we had to add this code here. Also install the NuGet package for this class here for the operations filter. Okay, this for the recap. And now, as I already said in the intro, there are two ways we can check the user claims in essence. The first one is here in the controller. As soon, and this is important, as soon as you use the authorize attribute in a method or in the complete controller, then you should get an HTTP context, and the HTTP context, well, has a user. So let's have a quick look here, and this is really dirty, kinda. Well, we already created a fat controller here, meaning we have lots of logic in this controller. But anyways, let's just continue with this. You're here to learn something and not to build perfect apps for production. If you want to do that, maybe have a look at my courses, just as a side note, or just subscribe to my newsletter, and then you will also get lots of information there. Anyways, public, and this is not async this time. We just return an action result with a string. Let's just call this get me, for instance. This is our controller method. This is now a get method, HTTP get, and we also add the authorize keyword here, similar to the weather forecast controller, where we also added this keyword or attribute. And now also here, so only authorized users can access this method. And what we want to return is the username. For instance, get me is simply the username, and we can do that with return user. It's already there. And then identity, and then, for instance, simply the name. So this is a general way, and let's test that already, and we add the question marks here. So Visual Studio is, I was hoping it is then happy with this. Oh, of course we are returning an action result here, so let's change that a little bit. So first we say the username is user identity and name, and then we return okay username. And now let's add the question marks here, because this could be null, of course. And this is really new with, to be honest, I don't know what is checking that, if it's Visual Studio or .NET 6 or C#10. I think Visual Studio, please tell me if you know this. These null warnings here get these a lot with my code. So I really should add some more null checks. Anyways, so this is our really small controller methods, HTTP get attribute, the authorize attribute. It's not async, doesn't really matter here. And we return an action result with a string, and the string should be the username. Again, double check here in the create token method. This is the thing we want to return. So we have this claim here with claim types name, and then we add the username here. We could also return the role, for instance. We do that in a minute, but first here user identity and then name. Of course, there are other ways, not only two, but I think these are the most important ones. But let's check that now. We run the application, and in a minute we should get access to Swagger. I think this is already the app. Of course, no, that's not what I wanted. Here now, when we try this, we should get an unauthenticated. Correct. 401, we are not able to use this method now. This is because of the authorize attribute. So let's register a new user. And this time let's not use string, let's Spider-Man. Spider-Man wants to register with the password string. Why not? And now in our login method, we test this one as well. We use Spider-Man here, hit execute. We get our JSON web token. So this is important now to use here. And now we can use this method, hit execute, and we get Spider-Man. That's it. So we get already the username, and you can do that with everything in essence. With every claim you added in your token. To maybe make this a bit more precise, let's add a username too. And then what we can do is we use the user object and then the method find first value. And here you can specifically define or use the claim type. So claim types, hard to pronounce. Don't know why. Not names, name. And let's say we also want to get the role. So let's also add the role here. We return now an object. This is simply new username 2 and the role, for instance, something like that. And yeah, we should now get the same name twice. And the role of the user. And let's just restart this manually here. Okay, there we are. We register. Okay, let's use the boring string name here to make this a bit faster. And now we log in again. All right. We use that token, hit authorize, bearer. Close, and now auth, and now try this out, execute, and we get the object here. Username is string and string, and then the role admin. All right, so this is actually how you do this, but it's not best practice, and I want to show you now the other method I meant, which is using a service, because then in the service, kind of using the repository pattern here. So you have a controller, you don't want to use fed controllers, you want to use services that you inject into the controllers with dependency injection, similar to the configuration here. And then there in the service, you want to add a method to get the username, for instance. To be able to do that, you need, again, the HTTP context, but it is not available in the service by default. This is only the case here in the controller. So how would you do that? First, let's create our new service. Let's add a new folder here, call it services, then another folder. Let's say this is the user service, and in here now we add an interface user service, and also an implementation class, of course, user interface, which implements the user service interface. Now, to be able to inject this, we have to register the service. So we go to the program CS, and for instance, up here, we say builder services add scoped, and then user service like that, real quick. I know this is a really crash course here, crash course. And we go deeper in user. Oh, this is the problem when you want to do things really fast. So user service, yes, we call this user service, and now this should work. Okay, great. All right, we've got our user service, and where's the, there it is. The namespace, let's make this global so we don't have to add the reference in the auth controller, for instance, if you want to use it here. We go much deeper in our .NET Jumpstart course, for instance, but for now, I think even if this is pretty fast and I don't explain a lot, I think you get the idea and you know how this works, and I hope that you can then solve your problems with the claims here. So anyways, we've got the iUser interface. Let's add a method returning a string just for the username, get my name, for instance. And in the user service here, we also implement this. And now the thing is, we already need the HTTP context. For that, we go again back to the program CS. And in here now, we can add the HTTP context accessor with add HTTP context accessor, and the tooltip says it adds a default implementation for the HTTP context accessor service. So if you don't want to use the default implementation, write something yourself. But this, in most cases, I guess, is totally sufficient. With that, now we have the option to inject the HTTP context accessor service. So let's go back to the user service here. We create a constructor. And now in here, we say HTTP context accessor, call this HTTP context accessor, for instance, and we create and assign the field HTTP context accessor. And now here, for instance, because of the null checks, we first say we've got a var result, which is string empty, lowercase. And now if the HTTP context accessor HTTP context is not null, then we set the result to HTTP context accessor, then HTTP context, and then the user object. And in here now, in essence, we get the same stuff we already got in the controller. So for instance, we say here now find first value. We have to add a reference here, system security claims, and then we can say claim types, and then give me the name here, please. All right, and then we return the result. All right, and with that now, that was the wrong shortcut. With that now, in the auth controller, we inject our iUser service, call this user service, and create and assign the field. Yep, this looks okay, I guess. Wait, that was the wrong one. Did not look correct. Again, the user service, not the property. We want to use the field here. This is what I wanted. And now let's say here in the getMe method, we say our username is user service get my name, and then we return okay username. All right, string, and comment this out, or just leave it here, because when I check this in, then you can have a look again. So again, let's just save this and restart the app manually. So we injected the user service here. We use it here and return the username. And let's try this. And then we again add a little recap here so you know what we actually did. All right, so where's Swagger? There it is. Let's reload this and then register with a new user. This time this should be Iron Man. Hit execute. Then we log in with Iron Man. Execute. There's our token. We authorize, close, and now drum roll. We try this out. Hit execute. Iron Man. That's the one. Okay, so this worked just fine. And now a short recap again. I think the controller stuff, you know this now. we commented this out. You can use the user object here because the HTTP context is already available. I think when we go to the controller base class here, is it here? Oh, Jesus. Yeah. The first hit actually. Okay, so here you got the HTTP context, and from that you get the request. And here, this is this thing I was looking for: claims principal user. And of course, you can go down the rabbit hole here. You've got the claims and so on, the identity object. This is what I wanted to show you. So we inherit from the controller base class, and this is why the user is available here in our auth controller. And then you can access all the user stuff. But again, really important, this only works with the authorized attribute. So only then the user is available. And of course, the user can only have access to this method. So make sure you use the attribute either here or above the controller class, and then you can access all the user claims. But if you don't want to use a fat controller, meaning you want to use a service with the repository pattern, with dependency injection, and so on, then you have to add some more stuff. The first thing actually is you have to add the HTTP context accessor in your program CS. Now with .NET 6, in .NET 5 and below, you had to do this in the startup CS file, but now it's in the program CS. With that, you get access to or you are able to inject the HTTP context accessor. And then what we did, a better practice than just using fat controllers, is we created a services folder with a user service, and we had to register this thing as well as a scoped service here. And then in here, well, we got our interface and implemented this method here where we use the injected HTTP context accessor here in the constructor. And here now we access the HTTP context, and then it's exactly the same as in the controller. And that's it. Let me check this in real quick. Get user claims with HTTP context accessor. Is this the right spelling? Context accessor. Yep, that's correct. Commit all and push. All right. Nice. Yep, that's it. Pretty easy, right? So you've seen both ways, the controller and also the service way with a better practice. And I really hope you learned something with this little video here. If so, please consider giving me a thumbs up, maybe even subscribe to my channel. Would really mean a lot to me. Thank you so much. Consider subscribing to my newsletter to get free stuff, to get early stuff, to get ebooks, whatever. I promise I won't spam you. At most, I send an email once a week. And last not least, again, thank you so much for all your coffees, your donations. Maybe you want to donate as well. Would really love that, and it would really mean the world to me. So thank you again very much for that. I need more coffee. This is a fact. Well, and now I can only say thank you very much for watching, and I hope I see you next time. Take care.